In this video, let's tackle about the globalization of religion. So let's define first what is religion and globalization. Religion defines as cultural system of designated behaviors and practices, morals, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, ethics, or organizations that relates humanity to supernatural or spiritual elements, while globalization refers to a larger phenomenon that cannot simply be reduced to the ways in which global markets have been integrated, the integration of national market to a wide global market. So in the globalization of religion, much more than culture has the most difficult relationship with globalism. Religion is concerned with one sacred and follows divine commandments. Globalism abides by human-made laws, and globalism places value on material wealth. So these two are entirely contrasting belief system. Religion delves on the religious perspective of the culture, while globalization is more on politics and economics. Religious people are less concerned with wealth and all that comes along with it. A religious person's main duty is to live a virtuous, sinless life such that when he or she dies, he or she is assured of place in other world. They are ascetics precisely because they avoid anything. They are for complete simplicity, from their domain to the clothes they wear, to the food they eat, and even to the manner in which they talk. A religious person's main duty is to live a virtues. On the other hand, globalists are less worried about whether they end up in heaven or hell. Their skills are more pedestrian as they aim to seal trade deals, raise to profits of private enterprises, improve government revenue collections, protect the elites from being excessively taxed by the state, and naturally enrich themselves. If he or she has a strong social conscience, the globalist sees his or her work as contributing to the general progress of the community, the nation, and the global economic system. The religious aspires to become a saint. The globalist trains to be a shrewd business person. The religious detest politics and the quest for power, for they are evidence of humanity weakness. The globalist values as both means and ends to act. The religious detests politics and the quest for power, for the evidence of humanity's weakness. The globalist values them as both means and end up to further the economics of the world. Religion and globalism clash over the fact that religious evangelization is in itself a form of globalization. The globalist ideal, on the other hand, is largely focused on the realm of markets. The religious is concerned with spreading holy ideas globally, while the globalist wishes to spread goods and services. This philosophical difference explains why certain groups flee their communities and create impenetrable sanctuaries where they practice their religions without the meddling and control the state of authorities.
According to Peter Berger, an Australian sociologist and Protestant theologian, in realities, the relationship between religion and globalism is much more complicated. Why? We know globalization has many definitions, but generally, it is taught in economic and political terms. So, nakafocus siya sa political, while the religion is a system of beliefs and practices. So, how is religion related sa globalization? Globalization brings culture of pluralism with overlapping but distinctive ethnics and interests interacts with one another. As a result, globalization brings to the light the fact that since religion have similar values. So, libog kayo no? Ganyan ka-complicated ang relasyon ng dalawang ito. According to my research, these two terms have benefits and challenges. One of these benefits is globalization has played a tremendous role providing context for the current considerable revival and resurgence of religions. Thanks to globalization, ang religion have found a fertile milieu to spread and thrive. So dahil sa globalization, nagkakaroon ng pagkakataon ang religion na mapalaganap. And also, meron din itong challenges. Dili lang siya benefits, meron din challenges. So, globalization transformed the generic religion into a world system of competing and conflicting religion. So, sa process na ito, ang talagang magkakaroon ng conflict kasi yung mga fragmented na cultural practices, diverse yung mga dati ng paniniwala mababago. So alam naman natin kapag meron talagang pagbabago lalong-lalo na sa isang relihiyon, magkakaroon talaga ng conflict. But overall, these two terms contrasting to each other according to their beliefs. Religions follow the divine commandments while globalism abides by human-made laws. So ang religion naka-follow siya sa kung ano ang utos ng ating Panginoon, while globalism ay ang sinusunod yung kung ano ang ginawa ng isang political leader na nagbatas. Globalism depends on human action that can lead to the highest material satisfaction, while religions people are less concerned in wealth. So religion are the foundation of modern republics. One of this example is the Malaysian government places religion at the center of their political system. So sa Malaysia, isa siyang federal state and the leader of their country must be the leader of the religion. So yun ang kanilang sinusunod, which is entirely different from our country where we are a republic. And magkahiwalay talaga ang religion and state. According na rin yan sa ating naranasan sa past experience during Spanish. So, another example is the late Iranian religious leader Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini brag about the superiority of Islamic rule over its secular counterparts, and pointed out that there is no fundamental distinction among constitutional, despotic, dictatorial, democratic, and communistic regime. Ito yung mas powerful pa ang religious leader kaysa presidente ng isang state, base na rin sa kagustuhan daw ng kanilang Panginoon o kung Allah, kung bakit naging mas powerful pa ang isang religious leader. So to Khomeini, all secular ideologies were the same. They were flawed and Islamic rule and superior from government because it was spiritual. Yes, ibig sabihin, lahat ng secular ideology, for example, and democracy, for example, democracy at saka dictatorship, all of them are the same. Lahat kasi daw may pagkukulang. Unlike sa Islam na superior and spiritual. Yan ang dahilan kung bakit mas powerful pa ang isang religious leader sa ibang country like Iran. Moreover, religious movement do not hesitate to appropriate secular themes and practices like our country. Although we are Christians, we actually accept what are the changes. So, another example is King Henry VIII broke away from Roman Catholic and established his own church to bolster his own power. So ito yung si King Henry VIII, sa kagustuhan niyang makipag-divorce sa nauna niyang asawa, ay nagtayo siya ng sarili niyang relihiyon. Sa Katolik kasi na dati niyang relihiyon, hindi siya pinayagan na makipag-divorce sa kanyang unang asawa, meaning nito, nagtayo siya ng sarili niyang relihiyon para makagain ng more power and to change what is rule na nakagisnan niya. Nagtayo siya ng sarili niyang relihiyon para hindi na siya mapakialaman sa dati niyang relihiyon na kung ano man ang nais niya.
Religion for and against globalization. There is hardly a religious movement today that does not use religion to oppose profane globalization. Yet, the two so-called old world religions, where the Christianity and Islam see the globalization less as an obstacle and more as an opportunity to expand their reach all over the world. Globalization has freed communities from the constraints of the nation states, but in the process has also threatened to destroy the cultural system that bind them together. It can provide the groups moral codes that answer problems ranging from people's health to social conflict to even personal happiness. Religion is thus not the regressive force that stops or slows down globalization. It is a proactive force that gives communities a new and powerful basis of identity. And it is an instrument with which religious people can put their mark in the reshaping of this globalizing world, although in its own terms. Religious fundamentalism may dislike globalization's materialism, but it continues to use the full range of modern means of communication and organization that is associated with this economic transformation. It has tapped fast long-distance transport and communications, the availability of English as a global vernacular of unparalleled power, the know-how of modern management and marketing which enabled the spread of almost promiscuous propagation of religious forms across the globe in all sorts of directions. These fundamentalist organizations are the result of the spread of globalization and both find ways to benefit or take advantage of each other. Religions may benefit from the processes of globalization, does not mean that its tensions with globalist ideology will subside.
The Catholic Church and its dynamic leader, Pope Francis, likewise condemned globalization's throwaway culture that is fatally destined to suffocate hope and increase risk and threats. The Lutheran World Federation sent assemblies declaration messages including economic and feminist critiques of globalization, sharing the voices of members of the church who were affected by globalization and contemplations on the different pastoral and ethical reflections that members could use to guide their opposition. It warns that as a result of globalization, our world is split asunder by forces we often do not understand, but result in stark contrast between those who benefit and those who are harmed, especially under forces of globalization. Today, there is also a desperate need for healing from terrorism, its causes and fearful reactions to it. Relationships in this world continue to be ruptured due to greed and injustice and various forms of violences. These advocacies to reverse or mitigate economic globalization eventually gained the attention of globalist institutions. In 1998, World Bank brought in religious leaders in its discussions about global poverty, leading eventually to a cautious, muted, and qualified collaboration in 2000. Although it only yielded insignificant results, the World Bank agreed to support some faith-based anti-poverty projects in Kenya and Ethiopia. It was evident enough that institutional advocates of globalization could be responsive to the liberationist moral ethics of economic globalization, including many writings on social justice coming from the religious. With the exception of militant Islam, religious forces are well aware that they are in no position to fight for a comprehensive alternative to the globalizing status quo. What Catholics call the preferential option for the poor is a powerful message of mobilization but lacks substance when it comes to working at a replacement system that can change the poor's condition in a concrete ways. And of course, the traditionalism of fundamentalism, political Islam is no alternative either. The terrorism of ISIS is unlikely to create a caliphate governed by justice and stability. In Iran, The unchallenged superiority of a religious autocracy has stifled all freedom of expressions, distorted democratic rituals like elections, and tainted the oppositions.
For a phenomenon that is about everything, it is odd that globalization is seen to have very little to do with religion. As Peter Bayer and Laurie Bayman observed, religion, it seems, is somehow outside looking at globalization as problem or potential. One reason for this perspective is the association of globalization with modernization, which is a concept of progress that is based on science, technology, reason, and the law. With reason, one will have to look elsewhere than to moral discourse for fruitful thinking about economic globalization and religion. Religion, being a belief system that cannot be empirically proven, is, therefore, anathema to modernization. The thesis that modernization will erode religious practice is often called secularization theory. Historians, political scientists, and philosophers have now debunked much of secularization theory. Samuel Huntington, one of the strongest defenders of globalization, admits in his book, The Clash of Civilization, that civilizations can be held together by religious worldviews. This belief is hardly new. As far as back as the 15th century, Jesuits and Dominicans used religion as an ideological armature to legitimize the Spanish Empire. One of the great sociology of all time, Max Weber, also observed the correlation between religion and capitalism as an economic system. Calvinism, a branch of Protestantism, believed that God had already decided who would and would not be saved. Calvinists, therefore, made it their mission to search for clues as their faith, and in their pursuit, they redefined the meaning of prophet and its acquisition. This inner worldly asceticism, as Weber referred to this Protestant ethic, contributed to the rise of modern capitalism. It was because of moral arguments that religious people were able to justify their political involvement. When the Spaniards occupied lands in the Americas and the Philippines, it was done in the name of the Spanish king and of God. For empire comes from God alone. 83, then over 300 years later, American President William McKinley claimed that after a night of prayer and soul-searching, he had concluded that it was the duty of the United States to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them, and by the God's grace, do the very best we could by them. Finally, as explained earlier, religious leaders have used religion to wield influence in the political arena, either as outsiders criticizing the pitfall of pro-globalization regimes, or as integral members of coalitions who play key roles in policy decision-makings and the implementation of government projects. In short, despite their inflexible features, the warnings of perdition, hell is a real place prepared by Allah for those who do not believe in Him, rebel against His laws, and reject His messengers. The promises of salvation, but their citizenship is in heaven, and their obligatory pilgrimages, the visits to Bethlehem or Mecca. Religions are actually quite malleable. Their resilience have been extraordinary that they have outlasted secular ideologies, for example, communism. Globalists, therefore, have no choice but to accept this reality that religion is here to stay.